Welcome to the Parts and Labor Podcast, the podcast that explores strategies, systems, and stories that drive salon success. I'm Alicia, founder and CEO of Salon Scale.
And I'm Whitney, head of sales here at Salon Scale. Welcome to the Parts and Labor Podcast. Okay, welcome back to the Parts plus Labor Podcast. My name is Whitney.
And I'm Alicia.
And today we're breaking down what is your business actually costing you. So this was inspired a little bit by one of our last episodes where you kind of went on a rant of what's more impressive, a high revenue, whereas actually profitable. Kind of regardless of revenue, it's way more impressive, and the thing you should be chasing is an actual profitable business.
Yeah, and I think, the phrase is like revenue is vanity and profit is sanity. So I think that's like the message that needs to sink in. Revenue is cool, like great, you can say you've generated $1 million or $2 million, but like what are you left with? That's more impressive. And then diving just deep in, what does a profitable business actually mean to you? Number one, it's like, first of all, going to make you live. I say profit is what makes you live your life fully as a business owner. You're not, you're getting paid. Your business is making money, but that business being profitable means it's worth something. Mm-hmm. And if your business is not actually making true profit, it can't be sold. It can't grow. It doesn't have, that ability. So when you focus on that profitability and when you look at those and maximize that, you now can gain multiples. You can grow and you can, have a stronger valuation of that business. So again, if you need to get investment capital to expand, do another location, that is what the bank is going to look at, is like, how profitable is this business? And then once they look at that profit, this business is generating 30% profit, great. Then the next thing they're going to look at is cash. Mm-hmm. So they need to make sure that, yes, I can approve you on the loan for $100,000 to expand your next venture based off your profitability because it looks like it's great, but how are you going to pay the loan back? So they will look in now cash to see how you cash manage. Mm-hmm. So these are kind of the things that, I find that if you only focus on revenue, you keep just driving it, like you're going to go nowhere with the banks. You're going to go nowhere, like you're not going to necessarily get what you need to be able to expand, sell, grow, and just live, have a good life.
Earn a livable wage. I would say probably the number one reason that salons come to Salonsville, certainly like teams, commission salons, is that they have a high revenue. That part's figured out, dialed in, but there's no profit. Just like the reason you started Salonsville. We've talked about it a million times, but there's this huge disconnect that how is it possible that you have this high revenue and you're struggling to make payroll, or you don't have the cash to do your next color order? And your stylists feel that perception too. What do you mean you're taking 50% of every dollar that I bring in and you want to take more, or you're not making enough, or you can't provide these things for us? So I think that there's just this huge disconnect between, again, like, even a client will come in and you'll pay $400 or $500 for a big color service. And you'll be like, God, they must be like, they would have no idea that if you pull the curtain back, there's a high chance that salon owner is actually struggling to make profit, or oftentimes not even paying themselves. And so I think that, kind of diving into these numbers and really giving that transparency into like what it actually costs to run a salon is vital for, one, the salon owner's own sanity. Because prior to working for Salon Scale, I worked in the spa space for an incredible entrepreneur, like yourself, who's well known, well respected. People in this area know who she is, and she's done incredibly well for herself. But I remember her telling me the only way that you make money in this business is if you have multiple locations, because it's that commission model again. It's by the time that you are giving commission, there's hardly anything left. And so you scrape a little off the top of every service, and that makes up your profit. So if you have those multiple locations, if you have enough of those services that you could just kind of scrape like $1 or $2 off the top, then that can translate into a livable wage. But for a lot, that's not the case. They have the one, they pour their heart and soul into the one, And if there's not enough of those little transactions that can happen that they can skim off the top of, it doesn't translate into like a good life for the salon owner.
Yeah. Yes, I think we've seen this time and time again. And I think that we do skip over the cost, right? I think when was the last time, if you start a business, when was the last time you looked at a business plan? When was the last time maybe you didn't even have a business plan, maybe you bootstrapped it, but if you did kind of break it down, how often are you tracking back to, are we on track, or are we, if the goal is to, in first year, we're going to do 300,000 in sales, did we hit that? And then of the 300,000, what did it cost? Now I know what the costs are, so going into year 2, I now know how to budget that out. So year 2, I want to try and grow the business by 20% revenue, and then maintain those costs, not grow costs more. So, this phrase of you got to spend money to make money, I think maybe we take that too literal. And I think sometimes, we're over budget, like we're spending too much. Like I think that we're spending too much on things that maybe aren't needed, and maybe could be stretched over a whole year kind of thing. So I think when breaking down your costs, or what your salon actually costs you, you want to break them down into really understanding, first off, is what is the fixed cost of my business? Fixed costs are the things that you cannot control, like they're the same all the time. So that would be rent. That's going to be your, power, water, like your bills that are pretty static. They are the same amount every single month, and you have that lump amount. So you know what that kind of base fixed costs are. So I always say just take that, write it all the way down. If you can use a spreadsheet, it'd be great to put that in there. But put all those fixed costs in one column. Then in a second column, go to your variable costs. When you look at the variable cost, think about it as, things that are maybe more luxury items for the business, or extras like coffee, liquor, and you can categorize it even too by culture, team events, team building. Like these are extras, right? And so everything that's in that kind of variable side, when it comes to, is enhancing the culture, it's enhancing the experience, creating more value to why you're charging the way you are. And then when you look at things like education, like things under the staff, things like education, these, variable expenses are, growth investments. So it's not that you can't spend them, but you need to make sure that if you are investing a variable cost, like this year we put $20,000 into education, and we grew by X percentage, like did I grow enough? Did that help me grow 20% in year 2? Or did we have the same amount of revenue? Like what did it do is important to know. So whatever your variable costs are, you want to kind of factor that in. And the last and most important, which we overlook all the time, is your cost of goods sold. So these are going to be variable costs, like these are the actual costs of doing your business. So everything I said prior isn't the cost of doing business. You don't need to have special coffee. You don't need to have education. You don't need to have those things. Those are growth and investments to grow your brand, grow your atmosphere, grow value for customers, to support whatever business you're in. But the cost of goods sold, that's what people are talking about when they talk about you got to spend money to make money, right? And so when you look at that, these are variable expenses that you need to use in order to sell. So that's going to be color, foil, treatments, back bar. Like these are the things that you can't do a color service without those ingredients or those expenses. So typically, when we look at what does it actually cost you to run your business, a lot of the times, because we're not factoring all those things in, and with those double variable costs, we see time and time again that at the end of the day, by time the salon pays out their expenses, their fixed expenses, the variable expenses, commissions, there is relatively very little left. And it's generally all kind of into that model. So when you can break that down and you can understand that, then you kind of can come back out and see how are we going to cover these things. What are we going to do to be able to factor that in? Probably the most critical thing you can do.
Yeah. So obviously, accounting for those variable costs, like the cost of goods sold, in real time is that's going to be the most viable option, because not only are they variable per client, but they are also going up in price consistently over the year. And so if you do a price increase in January and your color brand raises their prices in February, that entire price increase is just getting eaten up by the new cost of goods, right? The new cost for the color, the new cost for the foils. And so you have now 11 months of making less money than you anticipated until you can do your next price increase, unless you do them kind of in lockstep with each other. But that's what I find. I think that's what we get to on a demo, is that's the eye-opening part, because typically, I've said it time and time again, if I get on a call with a team, I say, why are we here today? And they say, usually waste. So it's like waste is those cost of goods sold. They know that they're expensive. They know that they have to repurchase it, and they'd see it sitting half full in a bowl in the sink. And so they think this is where all my money's going. But when you really break it down, it's like, well, no, you're including 60 grams of this variable cost in a service. Whether your stylist is mixing up 60 grams or whether they're mixing up 80, you don't really know. And then you have this kind of lump blanket charge, which is inflated typically because you're giving commission on it for every time a stylist uses an extra bowl. So like $20, $30 for an extra bowl, which if you just need a little bit, that's probably not getting added on, right? And so these variable costs, they have a huge impact on the actual profitability of the salon, but they're not being treated that way at all. They're being treated like it's 50 cents, whereas it actually will make or break whether the salon is going to profit on that service, whether the salon just did that completely for free. The stylist is getting their percentage no matter what in a commission salon base. But these costs that, again, have the ability to eat your entire share of the profit, and they're just being treated like that's not the case at all. There's really this fluffy kind of reporting for it, and there's so many ways for it to go wrong. And there's so much of the onus placed on the stylist to make sure that they're covered with no data behind it. So make sure you add on those extra bowls for $20. Well, they don't know what the color costs. You didn't show them that. You didn't show them what you have to reorder. And so they're like, well, no, like the owner's rich for sure. They're taking 50%. Like they're rich. And I want to give my client a deal because it's my friend's cousin's boyfriend's cat babysitter. And so I'm not going to charge them for that. And, or whatever reason it might be. Maybe it's not looking 100% like the inspo book they came in, whatever it might be. But when you're not giving them that transparency to kind of know, like, listen, if you don't charge them, that means I am in the red on this service. And so when you don't kind of share that with them, then how are they supposed to know? How are they supposed to know that the reason you're mad, stomping around all the time, the reason you're hanging over their shoulder, peering at them, yelling at them about waste, is because these variable charges aren't getting accounted for?
Yeah, I think no matter how hard you try to fix a variable expense, no pun intended, basically that's what people are trying to do. Mm-hmm. They're trying to make it flat. Variable costs will never not be variable. Mm-hmm. They're going to go up with inflation. They're going to go up based off demand, different densities, different trends, different that. Like the variable will always be variable. And so if you are trying to track them down, figure out what it is, what the average is, and then fix it, you're going to have a problem in a year. You're going to have a problem in year 2 and year 3 because there's too much variable, and the variable will never stop. Mm-hmm. And so that is what happens. So we have a lot of salons that want it easy to the customer, fix, charge this, to sell it, as if it's easier to sell we charge $100, and I don't want to charge the extra color on top because it's too variable. And, at the end of the day, the way I look at it is your pricing is your salon stock market, right? And so what determines what it goes up and down is understanding, you have your base, your fixed, and then you have your variable expenses. That's kind of what happens. And then the value of the stylist would determine that kind of price point. But if you're trying to fix your pricing model, fix it, have it a static like this so it's easy to display it, you're going to, in the next year, have to change it, charge more, or maybe you wait 2-3 years and then you're behind because now all the cash that the business should have had, you're lacking in it. So I think that like this is the mindset that needs to shift like today. Like if you're not operationally and cost focused in your salon, like you're going to fail. Like you will absolutely 100% fail. And the more transparent you are with your team, the more trust you're going to build, and the more profitable the business is, the more love and passion and desire you're going to have to continue to run that business. But if you rob it of its cash flow and you continue to not be able to like control these kind of costs, it's like trying to climb a mountain with no oxygen. Like there's only so much that you can continue to do. And when you're on the next the next peak, the next next thing, and you have a crew of people with you and they can see you're physically tired and you're not as bought in, they're going to find another mountain. And now you're stuck with this mountain of disaster that is eroding you as a person. And it's like that is guaranteed to happen if we don't look at the actual business and ensure that those costs are actually being covered.
Yeah, I mean, because that, again, like there's so many ways for those variable costs. Just like you said, people try and make it flat. They try and make it easy, like digestible to the customer. And I've heard you say this before too, and I think I've even said it on the podcast, but one thing you said, I heard you talking to a salon owner once, you said, because she mentioned, I don't know if I want like the price to be different for the client each time. And you said, yeah, I could ask any single client right now and they would think you charge them a different price each time. Like that mentality's up here and it's on you. Your clients, they likely have no idea what you charged them last time 4 months ago. They probably think you are already doing that, already charging them a different price every single time. And so what's better to say, listen, we charge you for the amount of variable costs, amount of product that was used directly in your service today, versus, yeah, anytime we go over 60 grams, I'm going to charge you an extra $30. Like, well, what if I only need 10 grams versus what if I need an extra 40 grams? Like, they charge us the same. How's that fair? It's not fair. And not only is it not fair, but it does a disservice to the business. That's what it really does. You really hurt yourself when you try and just blanket it. And my other issue with that too is, okay, so you charge an inflated rate for an extra bowl. Let's say $20. The stylist gets 10, you get 10. Out of yours, you have to pay the entire product cost. And so that probably gets eaten up. And so for all that time, that extra time that client was in the chair, the salon didn't make any money. The stylist got paid for their extra time, which is a good thing. But now color goes up and up and up. And so you'd have to continuously, like let's say you need to make $5 more per client. Well, if you're giving commission on it, you need to raise your price $10 because you're only getting 50% back. And so in a couple of years, what is an extra bowl going to cost? $50? It's color's getting too expensive to be able to just, again, do that static charge for it, because you don't want to make it variable right now because you're worried about the client. But the longer you wait, the more you're going to have to charge the client the way you keep your pricing model the same right now, because you include it in what you're giving commission on. And so if you need to make another $1, you need to raise the price by $2 if you're including what your color and what you're giving commission on. You always have to double it because you pay the stylist. That's how you pay the stylist for it. So really, not only just making sure that variable charge is paid for, but also you can't give commission on it. That makes no sense. That would be like a mechanic getting a 50% commission on the battery they're installing. That's not a good deal for whoever bought the battery. They're going to have no money to buy the next battery, right? Like they're going to lose money on that. It just doesn't make any sense to give commission on a part that only one party has to repurchase and had to purchase in the first place.
Yeah, like absolutely. It's a cost of goods sold. It's the cost of doing that service. That is not a commissionable item. And that needs to sink in. And it's variable. Mm-hmm. So you can't like average it or have a ballpark or like it's always variable. And it needs to be replenished. So it's always a multiplier effect. So like for every single time you want to just be like, I'll charge more, or I just charge enough, or try to find these other, like add an extra bowl. Like, I mean, I look everywhere and it's just like, it's a bunch of Band-Aids versus, a stitch. It's like with salon scale, you get to fix the problem. Like you never have to worry about that again, because you have technology that's always tracking, it's always using the exact amount every single time in real time, and keeping track historically of exactly what is being used on every single service. And every week, every month, whatever you're using, you have usage-based information. Like this is the stitch you need. Whereas when you continue to look around at all these Band-Aids, all the Band-Aids are just trying to fix the same problem, and this can completely wipe it out, so you never have to worry about that. So whether it is adding on an extra bowl for $25, or having service charges or product fees, or charging more, just increasing overall pricing by $10, 10%, those are all Band-Aids that are not going to actually solve the problem upstream. So technology is needed. You absolutely need technology. You would not see a business, especially a scaling business, you go to any major business now, like you wouldn't see any of them that it isn't running off technology, having inventory in real time, having understanding of those costs of goods sold. And most important, I think that understanding these things and adopting these things allows you to, again, put your mind and your energy into the areas that you're needed more for. Like you don't have to be worrying about those kinds of things. But just like you said, I see this over and over again, where a lot of people are worrying more about the wallets of their customers, the wallets of the stylists, and they sit there on like, but the business isn't. And like, you are the CEO of your salon, you are responsible to have a return for that business. You're responsible to make that business profitable. Like that's your job. That job then should pay you as an employee of the business. And if it can't, something needs to change. And so like, you absolutely cannot keep your cost of goods in a commissionable line. Like you cannot keep it over there, because it's inflating the commissions. It's becoming like a compound variable. So not only was it a variable expense, $8 this time, $10 this time, but it also compounded because it went to a commissionable earning line. So like you're making it times a million. So simplifying it by separating it and keeping those on the other side, non-negotiable. Like it's not a negotiable, especially with it. It's like you said, as a mechanic, none of them would think that they're going to be making commission straight off those, off the actual the batteries or whatnot, right? And the same process would be if stylists today thought that when they sold shampoo, they deserve 50% commission. Like that's basically what's happening there with those cost of goods. So yeah, I think it's important to really factor these kinds of things in, and then to control those variable costs, make sure you're having them in real time. You're not like lagging, like scraping buckets, having the waste conversation. That's a lagging information. Like that's last week's or last month's problem, and you still have a cash issue. Like you're still not covering those costs. So like it really isn't going to fix. Like that's not, maybe it's informing, maybe it makes people, mix a little slower, mix a little less, but you're not going to solve the problem of replenishing the product that's being wasted and being used. Yeah. So it's like the easiest thing you can do is just like really digest this information, take it down to really the understanding of am I actually covering all these costs? And if I did cover them using a technology and I actually moved into this model, what would that feel like? Yeah. Like, what would that feel like to now know that not only is everything covered, but like I'm generating another $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 of new revenue into a business in a month, and that I actually am profiting. I'm seeing that cash versus hoping I can cover those expenses later.
That mindset shift, which we do kind of on a one-to-one on demos, and we aim to do here on this podcast too, but that it's so rewarding to see when that really sinks in, and then they switch their business model to that, and then we get the texts, we get the testimonials, we get like, and I think that really over the last 7 years of having Salon Scale, it's changing. We're getting there. Like it's, it was, I think initially when we kind of first started broaching the subject of, listen, just charge your client for the product, it was just like, no, like the first couple years, it was, that mindset took a bit to shift, and now it's almost never a no. It's like, yeah, like actually, yeah, that would solve it. And I think that, again, every single year that goes on, product gets more expensive and you use more of it, and people are doing more custom colors and things like that, and the problem's just amplifying. And so the longer you kind of wait, the more you're going to lose. And so just do it like right now. Just go to salonscal.com.
Just go and do it. Yeah. So when we look at what we're predicting, or when we look in the future, by 2030, it's a ways away. But when we look at that, these costs, a single tube of color could get upwards to be in around $20 to $22 a tube, which is wild.
Yeah.
So that's double what we're doing right now. So the only way to protect your profit, the only way to protect your business and to make sure you're covering all these things is a separation of your parts from your labor, your cost of goods, controlling those and making sure those are done. And I think that no matter what, if you just take the time, like I would just say, the one thing I probably would recommend to any salon, or what I wish I would have done a little bit more, was take the time to really digest the business a little bit more before I just impulsively create an action. So let it really sit in, really understand it, and then communicate what you kind of need to do. So understand all those expenses, understand how that fits into your current model, find ways in which, like what is the first thing that we can do to, move through this so that you're confident through it. Because nothing is worse than making some rational decision and just be like, we'll just increase the prices and make a change, and you just kind of come in, bulldoze it in, and then it's good for a month, and then it starts to get back into that same thing. Make sure the actions you're taking are creating results that last.
Yeah.
So I would say that's important.
Yeah. Well, I think that sounds like a good spot to wrap this week's episode up.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for joining us on this episode of the Parts and Labor Podcast. And of course, if you're interested in Salon Scale, in the show notes, go ahead, click the link and get started today.